The other day, I hopped back into Hazard Zone. I was craving that extraction style experience, and I decided I wanted to check the game out again, just to see what changed and, see if I could actually have fun. Unfortunately, I never got to the fun part. But that got me thinking about the future of Call of Duty's DMZ mode. What are the biggest flaws that Hazard Zone has that Call of Duty could do a little bit differently to make the game actually fun and worth playing? After all, they're apparently going to have 3 different game modes in the Modern Warfare 2 release. They're going to have the typical multiplayer experience, and then they'll have Warzone 2, and then they've got the DMZ mode. And we're not really sure what the DMZ mode is, whether that's some sort of DLC or it's attached to Warzone. We just don't know that for sure. But this does have the potential to split the player base dramatically, and much like Hazard Zone, make you wait 15 minutes just to get into a match because they can't find 16 players to fill the game, even with crossplay. So what needs to be done here? My name is Tacti. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Let me know down below what you think the biggest downfall was with Hazard Zone and what DMZ can learn from that debacle. Also, I'll be taking a lot from Hunt Showdown because I've been playing that game a lot and studying it, and they do the extraction style game mode very, very well. So what can Call of Duty learn from Battlefield's failures? First and foremost, I think the biggest thing is pacing. I think the way Hazard Zone is paced is just way off, and that ruins the fun. I know that with Battlefield, you're trying to go for that non-stop action, but I don't think that plays well when it comes to this game mode. Essentially, Hazard Zone is just sprinting across the map to the next location. There really isn't a whole lot of thought into it. It's just constant movement, movement, movement. And I think that's one of the things that really throws me off of the game, throws a lot of people off of the game mode. And I think Call of Duty could suffer with this as well, because the movement speeds are very, very quick in most of the game modes. You've got certain bunny hops, you've got slide cancels. Everybody's moving very quickly, especially when it comes to the pros. But with the DMZ mode, I think this is going to have to change a little bit, or they're going to have to find a way to balance it to slow you down. One of the things that can have an effect here is the time to kill. If you lower the time to kill, people are going to want to move slower. That's why most of the time in hardcore modes, people move a little bit slower. And so I would like to see that transitioned into the DMZ mode. I think that that would be very beneficial to make every move dangerous. And that's one of the things that Hunt Showdown does so well. You can't tactical sprint, you can't slide cancel. The movements are fluid, but they're not crazy, so you're not going to sprint away from anybody. Most of the time, you're probably going to get shot if you're trying to run away. Now, in that game, it's a little bit different because most of your weapons are either bolt action or lever action. You don't have many automatic rifles in the game, so I know that that's going to be a difficult thing to balance. But to do that, I think Call of Duty's recoil can be buffed a little bit, at least in this mode. If everyone has a difficult time controlling their recoil, they're going to move a little bit slower and pick their shots a little bit wiser because they're not going to be able to shoot everybody across the map. I know Warzone, a lot of their weapons can shoot pretty far across the map, and that's fine for that mode. It's fine for that battle royale style, but I feel like in an extraction style game mode where the movement has to be a little bit slower to make the pacing a little bit better, you've got to have a little bit higher recoil. Now, of course, that may mean that they would have to tweak every single weapon in the game just for that game mode, and I don't really see that happening, so we're going to have to see how that works. But I think overall, in any game, higher recoil is a little bit more fun, but that's just a personal opinion. And then finally, along the lines of pacing, there needs to be some sort of environmental dangers or some sort of tasks that slow the player down. Like I said in Battlefield 2042, you do sprint all the way to the objective, and then you find some AI soldiers or another team there, and that's fine, but you're not really worried about what's in between, and you can just run away from AI soldiers if you want. They don't really chase you down. There's no real danger or hazards in the movement in Hazard Zone. Now, in Hunt Showdown, though, you've got dangers everywhere. You got to be careful where you're moving. Every bit of the environment is pretty much out to get you. You've got zombies, you've got traps, you've got those little clues that you have to get that are guarded by zombies. The environment just slows you down a little bit because you don't really know what's going to be on the other side of, let's say, a tree or a fence. You just can't be sprinting everywhere all the time. So I feel like there's got to be a little bit more than just AI soldiers if there's going to be good pacing in this game mode. I feel like there has to be danger almost everywhere for you to move a little bit slower and to provide that immersion. But speaking of this with the environment, Hunt Showdown does this very, very well. The sounds have to matter in this game. Kind of going along with the environmental dangers and tasks, there's got to be some sound cues here. Again, going back to Hunt Showdown, if you go by a bunch of birds or you go by some zombies, they're going to make noise and enemy players are going to know where you're at. This is sort of the key aspect in Hunt Showdown. It's sort of what makes the game so slow and tactical. You've got to know where things are coming from. You've got to know environmental cues. That's just a huge part of the game that makes it so immersive and fun. To go along with this, gunfire probably has to be implemented a little bit better. I know that they just released a short clip talking about how they've redone the sounds in Modern Warfare 2 with the gunfire and the footsteps. So that's going to be crucial in this DMZ mode to make it enjoyable. And again, slow things down a little bit because you know where people are coming from. You know that every move that you make is going to matter because someone else can hear that. And to complement the environment a little bit, some of those audio cues should muffle an approach or an action. So say you want to approach and steal somebody's bounty or loot or whatever the DMZ is going to be, you should be able to distract them or at least make sounds loud enough that your footsteps are hard to hear. I think that Hunt Showdown does a pretty good job of that as well if you want to start a fire or if while you're doing something you make a lot more noise so it's difficult to hear. I think that that's going to be a biggie. Also, just a little addition when it comes to sound before I move on to the next point. I would love to have local VoIP in this. I know that there is battle chatter or whatever it's called when you die, so they've already got some sort of implementation to where you connect to other people on the other team, but I would love to have a local VoIP system really to add to the immersion and add to those tense moments. Maybe you have to wiggle your way out of a situation or call truce. Those situations are always fun to come by and really fun to watch, honestly. And finally, I think the progression in the DMZ is going to be a big deal. They have to have some sort of inventory system. I think one of the biggest downfalls of 2042 is that it just doesn't really matter. There's no real reason to get a bunch of guns. There's no real reason to pick up the drives. There's got to be some sort of progression system to where I can't get this rifle or this character unless I do a certain task or I spend a certain currency. It doesn't help that Battlefield's UI is awful in general, but either way, there has to be some sort of inventory system, even outside of guns. Whether that's clothes or camo, I don't know. The inventory system, though, has to be better than 2042's. Hunt Showdown, again, does an excellent job at this. You got special hunters that you can buy with certain skills. You can buy certain weapons and you have to unlock those weapons first. The progression in Hunt feels really good. But there's a purpose to it all, and playing the game kind of fulfills that purpose in my opinion. Mainly because there's a reason to grab the clues and the bounties. So that's what the DMZ mode has to do, whether that's through a battle pass, weapon unlocks, character unlocks. I'm not sure how they're going to balance this, but the progression system has to make more sense in Battlefield 2042's. I mean, that thing is just destined for failure. So there you go. There are just some quick thoughts on what the DMZ mode can do a little bit better than Battlefield 2042's. I think if they look at Hunt Showdown, again, they're going to find a lot of things that are going to be helpful to developing the game. Hunt Showdown is obviously a little less modern and more sci-fi, but I think there are still a lot of things that they can take from that game and implement into this game. Again, having fully automatic weapons in the game mode like this is going to be somewhat difficult to balance, but I'm really looking forward to this mode and I've got some high hopes that they're going to do a good job. I feel like they did a great job with Modern Warfare 2019, and this is just another chance to do it right. But again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, definitely give it a like, give it a dislike if you didn't, subscribe for more, and until the next one, be bold, be courageous, stay tactical.